means something good happens. But things happen in our lives, having control over that and empowering one another and not stigmatizing because somebody has maybe a mental health or a stressor, because maybe they were a victim of domestic violence. How about that? Maybe they were a victim of gang retaliation. Maybe they were victimized because where they live or how they look, right? Those are not good things. Those are all stressors. And we have to remove the stressors, right? Are you with me? You understand what I'm saying? I know you do. If you do, please say yes.
Yes!
All right. One of the most important things I want to say to you is that we have to look back in our history to see where we go as in the future. And we know that there were so many terrible things that have happened in our society as of late. And I don't have to remind you what happened in Buffalo, right? New York. That was a sad day. And I pray for those souls and those families, innocent people who got up to do their thing. They went shopping, but they didn't come home. And young people didn't come home. And we should remember that people's lives shouldn't be taken away so senselessly. Okay? And that's why one reason we're working in the county of Los Angeles to try to make sure that people don't get access to things that could hurt other people. And not only guns, but words hurt people, right? You know that. There's a lot of discrimination. We gotta stop it, we gotta clamp it down. That's why we celebrate today. And we celebrate every single day that we have the freedom and good things that the County of Los Angeles and that you good people also provide. Because I can't instill that more to you.
Hello, everyone. Happy Freedom Day, happy Freedom Day. I hope you're having a lot of fun. You know, we've been having some amazing visitors. Supervisor Hilda Solis, since this is our very first official LA County Juneteenth event at the parks. Woo woo, go us. And I just wanted to bring up Baba E, is that what people call you? One of our elders. You met him earlier. He did our libation ceremony, and he's also going to be on one of our panels in a bit. First, we're going to start with our women's panel, and then we're going to finish with our men's panel, of which Baba is a part of. But before he leaves the stage and we take over as your panelist, I just wanted to give him the mic a moment because we were listening to some music as we transitioned, and I wanted him to just hold space for some of the music that was playing. Here you go.
Again, I'm 77 years old and an activist. And if I was going to say do our Pledge of Allegiance, everybody jump up and put your hands over your heart. When we do our national anthem, that is a symbolic song. And those that know the song should have stood up and recognized the song. I was a little miffed when I saw us folks, my black folks, sitting around talking like, nothing's happened. But if I said we're gonna do our Pledge of Allegiance, everybody jump up on their feet. So understand as an elder, give respect to our national anthem. That's what I say, that's all I have to say. That's my scolding for the day.
Yes. So we included the Black National Anthem, which is Lift Every Voice and Sing, as a part of our music ambiance because it's important. This is essentially our Independence Day, and that is our song, and we will play it again, and we want people to stand up and engage with what that means to us and truly, truly listen to what the words say. So that being said, welcome to your panel series. Woo-woo! So you're like, what's a panel series? So a panel series for us is basically having important conversations. So, as a therapist, so I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and one of the reasons why I do the work that I do is because as a therapist and someone who works in mental health, we are witness to much pain. We are witness to many stories. And really what I found as a mental health professional is that what works the best in the healing of my clients is when they actually feel heard. When they actually feel like the pain that they experience, someone acknowledged it and validated, and it's not as if they need that validation, but something about acknowledging that you are not crazy inside, or that the feelings that you have are not irrational and out of place. We are allowed to feel anger. We are allowed to feel rage. We are allowed to feel sadness. We are allowed to feel joy. We are allowed to dance and be in sunshine and do lovely, wonderful things for ourselves because that's what we are allowed to do because we are in charge of ourselves. So this conversation today is called Black in America. and it's about having important conversations. And I want to just, take a moment of silence for the fact that we did hear Lift Every Voice and Sing, and that we do have a lovely panel of women, and that we are here now to have those wonderful conversations. All right, I'm gonna actually let the lovely ladies introduce themselves and let you know who they are. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Hi everyone, I am Dr. Taskamore, but you guys are family, so you can call me Dr. T. I've been an OBGYN for over 17 years, practicing primarily in underserved communities. I have traveled around the world doing missionary medical work, and currently I'm the founder of Healthy Bump Club, which is a digital educational platform for women to learn everything about fertility, about pregnancy, and the postpartum period. We hold critical conversations on our YouTube channel for Healthy Bump Club, where we talk about the topics that no one wants to talk about. And we talk about it from our perspective as women of color. We're a diverse group of health professional women who also share our personal stories. So not only are we professionals, but we are also patients, and we have similar stories. So definitely check us out on Instagram and on YouTube. It's just a pleasure to be here.
Oh, that was so eloquent. So good afternoon, everyone, and happy Juneteenth. My name is Ardina Bartlett, and how I often introduce myself is that I'm the founder, director, and member of an initiative called Parenting Black Children. And what that is, it's focusing on and celebrating our parents and caregivers who have children with special needs, as you may think of it, but individuals who have autism and developmental disabilities that may include Down syndrome, intellectual disabilities, and others. And so I say member because I am a mom to a beautiful Black boy who's now 11 years old on the autism spectrum. And he was diagnosed at the age of 2.5 years old. And I have to say to you, I knew nothing about what autism was, developmental disabilities, had no idea. And that's where the problem is. The problem is that I had no idea. And so through a divine intervention, who told me to call the regional center. And the regional center is actually here today, which offers programs and services for free to our children with developmental disabilities. And Black folks don't know about it. And because of that, because of the intervention, my son's doing very, very well. And so I offer, through Parenting Black Children, we offer support groups, support networks. I have open hours, support hours, Zoom hours. You can call in, Zoom in, ask me a question. I'll get you access to the resources. I get you connected to the regional center. We'll help you walk through the process and get you to the resources that you need. And so the reason why it exists is because there's a disparity. There's a disparity of information getting to African Americans and to our parents. And we need to close that gap, and we need to increase the access to information. And so that's why my program exists. So thank you so much, Nakeya, for having me here.
Hello all, my name is China Lloyd. I'm the West Health Program Coordinator for Young Invincibles. You can see our booths back there. We are a nonprofit organization that's geared towards elevating the voices of 18 and 34-year-olds in the political process and expand economic opportunity. Our issue areas are healthcare, workforce and finances, civic engagement, and higher ed. I'm here today to speak on this panel, but I also educate on health insurance literacy and also lead a COVID outreach campaign to educate people on the vaccines, boosters, and we're also trying to get, kids 5 to 11 vaccinated. So please go back and see our booth. We have a bunch of swag, we have wipes, all sorts of stuff you may need. And thank you.
Thank you so much. So as you can see, we have a very esteemed, powerful group of women of different age groups, right? And professions and perceptions of what it's like to live while Black in this world. And it's important that we hear, and we particularly did a women's panel and a men's panel because we want to speak truths to what it's like to be a Black woman in particular. And it's different than being a woman of another ethnicity because it just is. And you guys are gonna get to hear what that's about right now. So let's get into it. You guys ready? You guys ready? Yeah! Yes, okay. All right, so our first question, and you guys have about 2 to 3 minutes to answer each question, okay? This year, Juneteenth is an official holiday. What is your opinion on how that impacts the Black community?
For 1 second, let's all imagine what it would be like to live just one day as a slave. Could you imagine? For many of us, we cannot even fathom what life was like as a slave. Today, we commemorate the bravery, the courage, the determination of our ancestors. We say thank you, but also we pick up that mantle. So today is a very important day as we commemorate their lives and what they endured. But it's also important for us to remember that we still don't have 40 acres and a mule, right? The last time I checked, I didn't get one, right? Which means that the journey continues, the marathon continues. It's important for us to realize it took us over 150 years to get here, 157 to be exact. That's unreasonable. For something that is not, slavery is not just a Black problem. It's a problem for all of humanity. That's why today is so important to see the diversity of ethnicities who are commemorating and honoring our ancestors together, because it's about us, it's about unifying, and it's about continuing so that we can get those 40 acres and a mule. So what does that look like? It looks like health equity. It looks like fair housing, and it looks like voting rights.
Very nice. So, Juneteenth, like much of our history, has been hidden from us as African Americans, and for many of us. So not just African Americans, this is American history that has been hidden. And Juneteenth is a beautiful holiday, but it definitely has a bitter-sweet component to it. When information is hidden from us, it takes away our identity, it takes away our personhood, it takes away our soul. And so it is important for us to recognize days like Juneteenth. But Juneteenth isn't the only one out there, the only bit of information that's out there about African Americans, being Black in America, as well as other cultures. There is hidden information that we need to find, because what happens with that information that comes into the light, and then we are strengthened from that information. We are strengthened of who we are as people. Juneteenth, I am so excited that it is recognized nationally now. It's always been recognized for us as African Americans, and for many of us it had been hidden for a while. And with that recognition now, people seem to feel a little bit freer to talk about Blackness, to talk about Juneteenth and what Juneteenth really meant to us. And so I'm excited because now I'm in spaces where, county spaces, city spaces, governmental spaces where they wouldn't have said it before. Now they're saying, Happy Juneteenth, as we are today. So I want to say Happy Juneteenth. Let's celebrate Juneteenth, but let's celebrate so many more beautiful things that might have a little bit of a satin history, but we can definitely pull out the beautiful things of freedom out of it and live our free lives. Thank you.
I believe our country is entering a moment of reckoning. It is now time to confront our past and confront how Black people have been treated since we have built this country. For many years, Black Americans were taught that 4th of July was every American's Independence Day. But we all know the disheartening truth is that Black people were not free July 4th of 1776. This holiday acknowledges our history is American history. Slavery was a part of American history. And it shows our ancestors' perseverance and fight towards freedom that end up becoming our reality. But now we must have that hard but needed conversation about the history of racism, equity in this country, and it is needed in order to create a better future for generations to come.
Thank you. Y'all spot fire. So, one of the things that came up for me as you guys were talking was that there is a reckoning happening right now. I remember a few years ago that when we tried to do an event that had the word Black in it, we couldn't. They actually told us to take it out, that it just had to be a mental health event, and that was pre-pandemic. And I want to say that we're sitting on a stage with the Black Mental Health Task Force, and we're doing a whole thing, a conversation and a panel series about being Black in America. And there's a sign right here that says Black in America, and there's black, and a black. And you guys heard the Lift Every Voice You Sing and learn history, that if you actually have a conversation somewhere, it would be called critical race theory if you're talking about educational systems. So across the board, we are seeing progress, right? But there's still a concept of the Black person doesn't rest, right? And so Juneteenth, I saw somewhere there was a meme of don't yassify Juneteenth. Like don't have Walmart have plates and celebratory things without the education also being included. So thank you guys for including that perception about how important Juneteenth is now that it's official, because it gives us voices. If you get to talk about it, we get to talk about it, right? Okay, on to our next question. How can we support Black women in our own sphere of influence? So my sphere of influence is mental health. How can you support Black women in your sphere of influence?
Ways to support Black women. We can support Black women by first pronouncing her name correctly. The microaggression of dismissing a Black woman's name has been going on way too long. It's important to see us, to recognize us. It's also important to believe us. Many of you have heard the stories of maternal mortality cases throughout the US, simply based on not believing in Black women. You can also support a Black woman by making sure that she is heard, making sure that we create spaces like this to have these conversations. Support Black women by understanding that the textbook was not made for us or by us. Stop trying to put us in textbooks that do not identify with who we are. Support Black women by valuing our children today more than when they were auctioned. Creating opportunities for us to decrease Black maternal mortality. Support our breastfeeding, because we know that breastfeeding significantly decreases infant mortality. And we know that infant mortality is twice as likely for Black children. Support Black women by helping us to make it to full term. Preterm labor is more common among Black women. Support Black women by avoiding the statement that we ought to treat her like a white woman. Because what that says is that for some reason, we must be upgraded in order to be treated fairly. That is coming from a very popular TV show. So it's important for us to understand that Black women are to be seen, we ought to be heard, we ought to be believed, and we ought to be received with love.
That deserves, woo! That needs a standing ovation on that one. So when I thought about this question, I thought about some parts of Juneteenth, where you had individuals, beautiful Black people who were enslaved. And they were enslaved, but the information was trying to get to them. And so they were enslaved, but they were free, but they didn't know. But the information was trying to get to them, but it didn't get to them at the same time as others. So they didn't have access to the information that they needed in order to change their lives at that moment, at that time in their life. They did not have access to the information needed to make choices for their families. Now, we may think it's a little different now, but let's think about it. I love my governmental entities. I love all the resources that come along with it. But oftentimes, our Black folks can't get access to the information that is there. You know it. Sometimes it seems like it takes 50 pages of documentation before we can get access to what is supposed to be given to us. Not even given to us, that is, it's our entitlement in a sense, because we are citizens of this world, of this nation, of this state, as human beings, and we don't get the access to it. So in my sphere of influence, so to speak, much of what I do is access, getting folks access. I act as a go-between, a connector. When I see my Black sister and I see her with a little baby that may appear to me to be premature, I ask her the question, do you know about the regional center? Do you know about this system in which could give you access to resources to help your baby to develop at the rate in which your baby should? I do that because I needed access for myself, and I know how difficult that is. So for me and our spaces, as we are people who know some information, we may not know it all. We can't know it all. But give your brother, your sister access to some information, and they may receive it, they may not. But at least you did your part. And so as we move forward, as people coming together and celebrating Juneteenth, remember that there was a time where there was no access to the information, but right now we don't have an excuse because it's there. And if we have to knock down a door to get to the access, and I say that not in a literal way, in a figurative way, then we need to do that. And so that's what I have to share with you. Let's get access and let's share that information with others. And so thank you to all the vendors that are here, because you're doing just that. Thank you.
When it comes to supporting Black women, the main thing that I thought of was supporting and advocating for policies that will minimize our struggle in America, because it is very hard being a Black woman in America. Many times, Black women are the backbone behind many movements, even movements that we may not identify with. We want to support everybody, but when it comes to our movements, at times we're alone. So we need support. We see that Black women in this country hold the most student loan debt. We need to keep pushing for the cancellation of student loan debt to help Black women. We see that Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely than white women to die during childbirth. We need to keep pushing for better maternal health outcomes. And I am all for diversity, I love it. But what is diversity without inclusion? We need to start making sure that Black women feel included in the workforces that they are giving to. They feel comfortable and they enjoy their jobs. We hold these companies, organizations accountable for educating on microaggressions, stereotypes, and racism. It is not our job to educate you on how you should treat us as a human being. And it is not our job to make you feel comfortable about our mere existence either. So I feel like if you want to support Black women, it's time to do the work that we've been doing for centuries.
Thank you so much, panel. That was amazing. And your final statement really reminded me, China, of when Rihanna was at the NAACP Awards and she did her speech and she looked around and she said, "You got friends? You got friends? Look at them and say, come through. Pull up." Right? This is important, that all of the allies that celebrate Juneteenth don't just have a party. Take action every single day to make change and impact change. And what my answer to the question is, how can we support Black women? Well, you just talked about it. Black women are alone. So support means that we are stressed out. Without a lack of support, we are stressed out. So acknowledge that we are stressed out. What happens to a body when it's chronically stressed? I'm sure you guys know. Let me give you some examples. Sleeplessness, nausea, stomachache, heart attacks, early death, infant mortality, premorbidity. We can go down the line. And guess who's most impacted? Black women. So if you know that they're impacted and you know the data and you're not doing anything about it, you're a part of the problem. You are the problem. It wasn't the slavers. It wasn't your ancestors. It's you right now who have power and you do nothing. And this is for all of us. This is for every single one of us, Black people, white people, Asian people, Latino people, Native American, all the way around, any disability you might have. We are not in competition with each other. We are in community with each other. And the reason why we have so much chronic stress and trauma collectively, even in this pandemic, is because we don't talk to each other. We're individualistic, and it's not our fault. It's systemically intentional. It's intentional that Black people don't come together in groups. Because if we do, guess what happens? What happens when Black people come together in groups? How about
We mobilize.
I like mobilize.
You want me to go negative?
Yeah, what happens when Black people
Well, we might disperse because of something.
I want her to
Yes, go ahead.
I was like, woo, woo, woo. We hear them sirens.
Yes. So historically, we are punished for coming together in groups, and if we're together in a park, sometimes people call the police on us. But we haven't really learned how to be collaborative as a community, because sometimes we've been taught through the way that people have behaved with us not to come together. So things like this are the complete opposite, and we're going to continue to do this work. With that being said, that concludes our panel. I'm going to let the panelists take the mic one more time to say, how about 3 words of how we're going to move forward and support Black women.
I'm going to reiterate what I said. We are going to see her, hear her, believe her, and receive her.
Supporting, connecting, and educating.
We're going to advocate for policies. We are going to push trainings, and we are going to listen to her when she speaks.
Thank you very much. There'll be a brief break, and then we'll come back for the men's panel.
We can see it through the fake hurt, like a fat dude with a tight shirt. Do I think it's time to size up? Working it back, killing it in the kindness. Working the track, it rhymes like slander. Either fix it or miss it, yo, A-Con, hurry up, put us on Wakanda.
They said that we can't.
One more time,
And then we
don't care.
won't.
Come on.
They said that we never.
Juneteenth.
And then we
Say
won't.
we don't care. Come on.
They said hold up. They said shut
We don't
up.
care.
They said give up. We still turn up.
One more time,
Put your fist in the air.
we don't care.
Put your fist in the air.
We don't care.
Put your fist in the air.
We don't care.
Put your fist in the air.
We don't care. Hey.
They said lay down.
Come on.
We still turned up. They said turn it down. We still turn up.
Juneteenth one time, just rock with it.
Hey,
Just rock with it.
hey,
Just rock with it.
hey,
Just rock with it.
Hey.
One more time, say we don't care.
we don't care.
Say we don't care.
We don't care.
Say we don't care.
We don't care.
Say we don't care.
Yo, we don't care.
Hey.
Be a good day. It's gonna be a good day.
You keep me fresh cut, dressed up,
Walking with my best strut.
I was going down, but now things really kinda looking up. If Superman ain't falling victim to the dark night, my game's so right that now I got an appetite for kryptonite. I built up in that unity, ain't nothing you can do to me. I seen it done, it heard it all, ain't nothing new that's new to me. I'm dreaming, co-scheming to live a life that's getting free. It's too much bad, you must say, no day, it's got to be a good day.
It's gonna be a good day. It's gotta be
Come on, let's do
a
it.
good day. It's gonna be a good
Say
day.
a good day.
A good day.
A good day.
A good day.
Hey.
It's gonna be.
It's okay to dance.
It's gotta be a good day. It's gonna be a good day.
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 Oppression, depression, obsession, every other message, session, messing with less, ingesting every message, got a blessing, blessing me back. I'm living for to give and be forgiven, living to be, new women, negative is positive is fine. So sublime, am I late ahead of my time? I was winning some out of the box, I was winning some out of my mind, space control, off delete, every message of the PDP repeats it, yesterday, good, better, best, and best, and they just got to be.
It's gonna be a good day.
Come on, Susie.
It's gotta be a good day. It's gonna be a good day.
A good day,
A good day.
a good day,
A good
come
day.
on.
It's gonna be a good day.
It's okay to
It's
dance.
gotta be a good day.
It's an experience, not an attraction.
A good day.
A good day,
A good day.
a good day.
Man, I'm feeling real good.
Okay, What's going on over here?
And I'm looking so fly. Trying to be a good day. I'm trying to live a good life.
Seems like I'm in the future, speaking to the future, telling me this is how it was gonna play out, this is how it's gonna be. Truth in the line, I'm trying to stack the crown. Defy rules and restrictions, restrictions, part of my mission. I'm finding essentiality, unconventionality, positive mentality. I'm from another galaxy. This band the future speaking, freaking, so now I'm thinking. Your eyes ain't no more leaking, not today, this week is good.
It's gonna be a good day.
Come on, bob your head, clap your hands, do
A good
something.
day. It's gonna be a good day.
Yo, it's gotta be
A good day.
harmony.
A good day.
They will not be allowed to collect at military posts, and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. So I want to be clear, even though the slaves celebrated Juneteenth and the abolishment of slavery, it still came with strings attached, right? So I'm gonna give y'all some homework. When you get a chance, look up vagrancy laws, okay? And look up black codes, because these were two initiatives that were run by white supremacist structures. You could also look at CRT, critical relations theory, which talks about systemic racism, okay, and structures that propagate racism. These things were done. So even though the slaves were free, they still could not gather, right, in Texas, because they would be breaking vagrancy laws. And it's right here in the proclamation, okay? So I want you to know we still had a long journey and a long road ahead of us. Even going all the way, we heard Sister Nakeya just say a few minutes ago how when she first started this whole thing, she couldn't even use the word black. This is all an offshoot. So even though there has been progress, it's been baby steps, we still have a long way to go. I'm very grateful for Juneteenth in my heart, but we have a long way to go.
For me, this is a federal day, this tremendous day of pride. But it also makes me want to reflect back to how much we have contributed. We helped build this country, but we don't get the credit we should get. So that needs to be corrected. And also, I think about the 13th Amendment. There's a caveat that needs to be removed, because in that 13th Amendment, slavery is still legal in the United States. That needs to be corrected. The 13th Amendment should be a complete abolishment of slavery throughout the United States and all of its territories.
The doctor, of course, was much more well prepared than I was for this by bringing up the stats. But I think of these things as relevant as today. When abolishment of slavery happened, we went through what they call the first Reconstruction of America, right? A new America with all equality. Through the 1960s, they talked about the second Reconstruction, which is now that we have civil rights, we are now equal. This is again the second Reconstruction. And now post-COVID, a lot of people, especially on the economic side, is calling this the third Reconstruction of America. So when I think of this being the first Juneteenth as a federal law, I think of this is the third time around that gives us an opportunity to do it right this time, right? And so racism plagues us through so many things, right? We can't control what a person's heart has, but what we can do is control how the system looks at black people. And the first thing that we did was acknowledge. We acknowledge that history through Juneteenth. So now we acknowledge the day of freedom for blacks instead of assuming that July 4th recognizes us. So all these things to me is important, right?
I'm grateful to hear all the contributions that was mentioned to us. And knowing that we were just 4 generations out of slavery, 4 generations, knowing the blacks fought and took their liberty, wasn't given to us. And knowing who Martin Delaney was when he talked to President Lincoln, because there was a repatriation act for blacks to go back to Africa. Then they moved toward, we want our citizenship. But then, as you know, the North was losing the war, they brought in black troops. They went down to Texas, and it was known as Negroes with Guns for liberty. And we had that, like you said, for 12 years. Then Jim Crow hit. And we had that evolution. I'm a product of the 60s, power to the people. That's that social consciousness. I'm one of them brothers that run around arms saying liberty, black consciousness, intellectual development, creativity, and fighting against institutionalized racism, which still permeates today, has not changed. Inequality is still in place today, has not changed. Opinions of blacks, degradation of blacks has not changed. How do we change that? Work on the system. Work on ourselves, knowing who we are. Every time you pick up a telephone, oh, that was a brother that designed that. Look at the legacy that we bring to the table and say, yes, we do more than just sing. We're scientists, doctors, lawyers, inventors. Give us credit where credit's due.
So Jennifer, tell us about the Young Invincibles.
Okay, so we're a national nonprofit that advocates for young adults in the political process in order to amplify their voices.
So I know that you guys do a lot of education on COVID and on the vaccine. So tell us, what is one of the biggest misconceptions that you've come across?
So one of the biggest misconceptions we have come across, especially here in California, is it free? Is it really free? And it sounds like something simple, like why would people think it's not free? But the reality is people don't know they have access to it. They think they need insurance and they don't. There's a lot of ways to actually find out where a location is, the closest location to your zip code, but a lot of people think I can't get to it because I'm not insured. And the beautiful thing about Young Invincibles is that we also do healthcare literacy. So we could talk about healthcare literacy, but we could also inform you of why getting vaccinated is important and also tell you that it's free.
You heard that, you guys. It is F-R-E-E free, okay? Thank you, Jennifer, for letting us know. And what is one thing that you want to leave with us and let us know today?
One thing that I want to leave with y'all today is that we also want to let you know that you can get children 5 ages and older vaccinated, and they can get their booster. They can now get their booster. So they're fully vaccinated, which means they already had their first and second vaccine, 2 weeks have passed, then now you could be eligible to get their booster. So please look at the CDC website to get information on what the regulations are.
So you guys heard it there. You know we're all about protecting the babies on HBC. And here you have the information. You are now eligible to take your babies to get the booster. See you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. Bye. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Down. I'm ready to get up and get down. If you're sitting down, get your up in the air. Oh, sookie, baby. Okay, we're gonna do a little Barry White. Here we go. You're my land. You're my everything. First, my last, my everything. Shot, you done